That means you're not a hero, but that's a good thing because now you recognize at least what you're not. But again, we present it like it's a bad thing. I'm not a hero. Well, if you're not a hero, then you shouldn't be a hero. But you figure out what it is that you are. Because the truth is that being a hero is beyond the budget of most ordinary people. Because the cost of being a hero is so extraordinarily high. I mean, who wants to sacrifice themselves for people who don't even know them? Or would you sacrifice yourself if you would still have a terrible reputation? Because he doesn't do it for the notoriety. He does it because it's the right thing to do. And there's almost nothing harder to do than the right thing a lot of times. The dragon represents those things in us that will burn us up, that will cook us from the inside if we don't overcome them. The desire for money, greed, treasure. The desire for status, the castle. And then the desire for love, the princess. And those are three things that consume most people. Those are the three things that we're pursuing in life more than almost anything. And yet the knight overcomes it because he's not pursuing those things, he's defending those things, but he survives because he approaches through honor and virtue. And honor and virtue are the things that extinguish those flames in us that burn us from the inside. Batman is, he starts to go a little bit in this direction, where he's so reckless that, he puts himself in situations where he really could die, as though he believes that dying is going to somehow be a type of redemption, maybe, you might say. So the hero tale suggests that there's a price of courage, and that it's beyond the ordinary budget. What does it take to be a hero? Well, it takes first off to have courage. And courage, again, requires wisdom. Courage requires knowledge. You have to know that there's a danger. If you go running into danger without realizing it's there, you're not courageous, you're just ignorant. You're reckless. So that, again, takes a bit of wisdom to know when there's danger and to know the degree of the danger. So you can't be courageous. You can't be a hero without having a level of wisdom. And part of the wisdom that we can recognize if we're not the hero, it's that it's beyond most people. It is beyond most people because most of us don't want to self-sacrifice. Most of us, the idea of it sounds interesting, but seriously, how many of us would give our lives for our family? Many of us would say, I would do it, but would you though? If it really came down to it, would you? Like you were saying, in a zombie apocalypse, how many of us would be willing to give our lives for our family? How many of us now would be willing to give our lives for our friends? Well, that's easy as far as sacrifice goes. It's not easy, but that's as easy as it gets. Now, how many of you will be willing to sacrifice yourself for strangers? How many of you will be willing to sacrifice yourself not just for strangers, but for people you know, but are actually your enemies, people you hate, and particularly people who hate you? Because that's what it takes to be a hero. It doesn't take it takes an awareness of the danger, but also an awareness that's not going to change how they feel about you, and you're not doing it because it's going to change how they feel about you. And you're not doing it because you want to be recognized and because you want accolades. You simply do it because it's the right thing to do. And so that goes along with wisdom as well. You have to know what the right thing is and to have a steadfast fidelity to the right thing. And to do the right thing just because it's the right thing. Because part of being a hero is also being a model for other people of how to live. Now, this is one of the reasons that a lot of times we love our heroes for a while and then we turn on them. Because every ideal is a judge. Every ideal is a judge. And so when we see a hero like Batman, we like to say things like, he's just rich. That's why he can do what he can do. No, in fact, if you're thinking about it, it gives him every incentive not to do what he does. He's rich. You know that persona of like the playboy billionaire who just like hangs out with girls all day and then parties all night and drives Ferraris and all that? That could be his real life. That's all he has to do. And yet instead of being that person, he presents that, and by the way, he presents that knowing it's going to get him scorned, knowing that people are going to hate him, knowing that people are going to point to him and go, you're all the problems with the world right now. And he's willing to sacrifice his public image and even his his real life legacy of being this, like, but your father would be so disappointed in you today. Your parents would be so disappointed in you today. He's willing to take all of the scorns, all the arrows of fate, in order to pretend to be that thing so that he can be the thing that he really is, which is this person who goes out at night and does what everybody else wishes that they could do. But the thing about it is that most of us know, we have enough wisdom to know that we're not going to be the hero, because we realize there is real danger in the world and that we're not going to sacrifice ourselves for that. And so we look at an ideal like Batman and we realize that it's a judge of our own character, that we look at it and say, oh, whatever, man, he's just rich. We're only saying that because we're not the hero. But we're also only saying that because we want to be the hero. But if you really get your archetype straight, you aren't going to want to be the hero. You can look at it and go, wow, that's great. That dude fulfills the role of a hero. Is that you? No way, man. Not me at all. Like you're saying about the zombie apocalypse. I would probably, would you live for a long time? No, I'd probably die in a corner, cowering, just hoping it's over soon. And that's how a lot of people are. That's how most people are. Whether or not we admit that is very different from whether or not it's true. Because I know it's a terrible thought, but have you ever really thought if there was an active shooter on campus, what would you do?
Stop him.
Yeah, stop him. Yeah, I'd go in the closet and get my cowl and cap, my cowl and cape, and go running out there to stop him. Or how many of us would just ask me, how much space is in those cabinets? Could we all hide in the cabinets back there? Yeah. And by the way, if you're that person who doesn't think about it, fine. That means you're not a hero, but that's a good thing because now you recognize at least what you're not. But again, we present it like it's a bad thing. I'm not a hero. Well, if you're not a hero, then you shouldn't be a hero. But you figure out what it is that you are. Because the truth is that being a hero is beyond the budget of most ordinary people. Because the cost of being a hero is so extraordinarily high. And who wants to sacrifice themselves for people who don't even know them? Or would you sacrifice yourself if you would still have a terrible reputation? It's not really, it's the movies, but if you go back to the Batman thing again, if you guys have seen the Dark Knight trilogy, remember? He goes, he essentially pretends that he kills Harvey Dent because that way people will hate Batman because Harvey Dent was the hero that the people needed. So he was willing to destroy his reputation as Bruce Wayne and as Batman so that the people could have someone to look to. Because he just recognized that he himself as his character couldn't be admired and looked up to. And you wouldn't want him to because as people remember people were imitating him and they're going out in the streets and getting killed? So for him, it was almost like he couldn't do anything right. He couldn't make it better in any way except for to present himself as the bad guy. And so even though he did all of this good, even though he saved the city, he saved lives, nobody will ever know it because he doesn't do it for the notoriety. He does it because it's the right thing to do. And there's almost nothing harder to do than the right thing a lot of times. Because we can justify it. Like if I ask you, are you a good person? Oh yeah, you're a good person. Well, how? In what way? Well, I'm nice to people. And then you kind of turn to somebody and ask them, are you really nice to everyone? Well, I'm nice to people who are nice to me. Well, then that's not a good person. That's just a reciprocal person who's exchanging like a business exchange. I'm nice to whoever's nice to me. If you're a nice person, you're nice regardless of how people behave because you're a nice person. That doesn't mean that you don't fall into it once in a while getting angry with people and frustrated. Of course, everyone does that. But if that's your personality type, then you don't shift and change based on how people behave because otherwise you're allowing other people to determine how you behave and you're allowing other people to determine your archetype. And then of course you start to behave in ways that are completely contrary to how you really are, and then you start to hate yourself, you get angry with yourself, you get frustrated with yourself, and you feel like you don't belong. It's like, I don't even know who I am anymore, I'm behaving in all these strange ways. Of course, because you do kind of know who you are, but you recognize that you're acting contrary to that. You're a fish pretending that, or at least trying to be a bird. Or you're a cow trying to be a badger, I don't know. And essentially you're being other than what you are. And then, of course, it gets frustrating when you recognize that you're allowing how you are to be determined by people who don't like you. Yeah. And that's a hard thing psychologically, because even if it doesn't occur to us at the moment, it will occur to us at some point down the road. Hopefully not too long, hopefully not 30 years into the future, and you recognize that your whole life was lived off of one of those, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I know that a lot of people do this. If I told you guys, none of you guys can go to college, nobody in here is smart enough, so just give up on the idea. Some of you would say, I'm going to prove them wrong. And then you're going to go to college, and you're going to bury yourself under $100,000 of debt just to prove somebody wrong, whose name you won't even remember 3 or 4 years down the road. Some of us will do that with teachers. Like, my teacher told me I was dumb, so I'm going to prove him wrong. Well, do you think the teacher is going to remember you? You're going to live your whole life, and you're going to show up and be like, I'm Dr. So-and-so, I proved you wrong. And your math teacher is going to be like, who are you? I thought about you every day for the last 15 years. And that teacher's going to look at you and go, really? Because I didn't think about you at all. I don't remember your name. And you lived your whole life for that. And that means it wasn't your life. You lived it. You made it somebody else's. Yeah. They're both bad, but there is a third option. Examine yourself. Examine yourself. I think I was telling you that I had a math teacher, Mr. Sickler. That's so weird. Sometimes I remember his name, sometimes I don't. That's so weird, because he's dead today. Died of, I think it was brain cancer or something like that. I just found out. But he was this older guy. He would come up, and he always wore these sweaters. He would come up to the front of the room holding a piece of paper and just go, one hand in his pocket holding the paper, big sigh. You're all basically retarded. And you're not going to learn math anyway. So I'm going to read you. And he would read us stories. And I remember thinking at the time, I mean, I looked at my GPA and thought, he's got a point. I think I am basically retarded, but I liked his stories. And I probably have told you this story before, but does anyone remember, or can you guess what his stories were about? Castles and kings and dragons and knights. The same stuff that got me thinking about it back then. 9th grade Scanlon. Why kings? I'm sorry, why dragons? Why the hell do dragons even live in castles? We've talked about that in this class, yes? Why do dragons, I mean, think about that story of the hero's tale. That's the quintessential hero's tale. So the dragon lives, where does the dragon live?
Castle.
In castles. Now why is the dragon, that's a weird thing. And what does the dragon guard, by the way? Money, yeah, treasure, and what else? And a princess. So there's this dragon who lives in a castle and is guarding treasure and a princess. What use does a dragon have for a castle, or for a princess, or for treasure? Yeah, and what does the dragon use to defend those things, or to protect those things? Fire breathing. So now, who shows up to try to defeat the dragon? What's that? Shrek. Shrek's not a bad example, by the way, because Shrek is, sure. And Shrek shows up, and what's he wearing on his head?
Green ears?
No, he's not wearing green ears. He has green ears. But at first he's wearing a helmet. But most normal knights show up, and they're wearing a full body suit of armor. So if you ever wonder what the hell is wrong with me, this is me in 9th grade in my math class, thinking about why all this stuff is happening while he's reading us a story, when he just got done telling me I was basically retarded and wouldn't learn math anyway. And so I thought about the dragon. I'm like, that's a weird thing. The dragon's in the castle, and the knight is approaching, and the dragon has no use for a princess or for treasure or for a castle. And the knight is crossing the moat, and he's wearing a full suit of armor, but the dragon breathes fire. What the hell? Isn't that the last thing you'd want to do, is cover yourself with metal when something's breathing fire at you? Because metal superheats. He's basically walking around in an oven just waiting for the dragon to turn the oven on. But he wears it anyway. And it got me thinking, well, why do so many cultures have this story? Because it's not a story about something that maybe really happened. I don't know, maybe there were really dragons at some point, but it really happens to all of us every day, though. And that's why we relate to the story so much. It's an archetypal story. We relate to it at a deep level. And it's not just because oh, we want to be rescued. Although a lot of people do, of course. And I know there's something in 2024 where we're not supposed to acknowledge that as being a true story, but it absolutely is. And some people want to be the hero, and we're supposed to, pretend like that's not the case, but of course it is. It's one of the reasons we suffer from such mass, social anxiety, because we're trying so hard to get away from the stories that have built us and the absolute truths that those stories convey to us. So the knight crosses the moat, and he's wearing basically an oven, and the dragon is flying around. Can that dragon be defeated?
Yeah.
No, it can't be. It's impossible. Because the guy's got a sword. All the dragon's got to do is like fly away and breathe fire at him from a distance. Yeah, and he's just wearing this suit of armor. He's going to get superheated and he's going to get cooked from the inside. But somehow, some way, and by the way, the danger is real. Because the knight crosses the moat, he looks to the left, he looks to the right, and he sees the piles of bones of all the warriors who came before him. So he knows he can die. And there's a good chance that he's going to join this above ground graveyard. So he crosses over, he does battle with the dragon, and it occurred to me, and again, this is just 9th grade me, that the dragon represents those things in us that will burn us up, that will cook us from the inside if we don't overcome them. The desire for money, greed, treasure, the desire for status, the castle, and then the desire for love, the princess. And those are 3 things that consume most people. Those are the 3 things that we're pursuing in life more than almost anything. And yet the knight overcomes it because he's not pursuing those things, he's defending those things, but he survives because he approaches through honor and virtue. And honor and virtue are the things that extinguish those flames in us that burn us from the inside. And that's how the dragon is huge. The dragon is insurmountable. You cannot defeat the dragon until you do. And all of us have a dragon in us. I'd ask you, what's the dragon that you're fighting inside? Is it a desire for love that you're willing to do anything for it, and that you think that all of life's problems will be solved once you find that? And there's a great video essay on YouTube about that, called The Myth of the Magical Other. You should check it out. It's on a site called Scanlan Lectures, I think it is. It's an animated video. It's my first animated video. So maybe we think it's going to be love. No. Maybe it's going to be treasure. Maybe. Maybe it's going to be status. I don't know. But what is the dragon in you that you're pursuing that's burning you up? That's making life harder for you. Because think about, again, the way that the knight approaches. The knight approaches his problems the way that a lot of us approach our problems, in ways that are actually detrimental to us. You wear the armor. Why? It would be better if you went in there with just, socks and chonies, but because at least then you wouldn't get cooked. So why the armor? Because the armor is the thing that many of us put up around us that actually make it harder for us to achieve the things that we're after. It harms us. And as we know, what makes most of us feel happy is the very thing that leads us just headlong into harm a lot of times. And the barriers that we put up to protect ourselves are usually the things that actually keep us isolated and not able to achieve the things that we want and we need. And then I looked up, and then my math teacher was like, the end. And I was like, I missed the whole story. He's right. Yeah, just make sure that the things that you use to protect yourself actually protect you. Don't make things worse. Because the ability to transcend normality, it is in you. The hero tales, though, they oftentimes make us feel like it's not possible. Why? Well, I don't have a dragon to fight. Yes, you do. That thing that's in you, and you know it's in there, or maybe you try as much as you can to ignore it. I know my dragon. It's hard, man. That thing pops his head up constantly, all the time, man. And if you guys know what to look for, you'll notice it when I'm talking to you. It's a constant battle. You have a dragon. Figure out maybe you have 2. Maybe those dragons are at war inside of you. Maybe those dragons have teamed up against you. But they're there. So how do you become a hero? Well, you slay the dragon. Slay the dragon. Figure out what it is and slay the dragon. The dragon might get back up, another sequel. You know, you slay the dragon, you walk away, and your triumphant credits roll. And as you're walking away, then you see the dragon on the ground just. Then you realize, dragon's coming back. There's going to be, you against the dragon part 2. Maybe you're going to get all the way to the point of you against the dragon, number 107. A lot of sequels. But it's there. You can do it. But hero stuff. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday. Yeah.